The first practice that we're gonna go through together step by step is creating some of these 3D walls. At first, let us show you the photos and take a look on them, and then we're gonna begin sketching them. For instance, we're gonna start the process from here. Check this out. Okay, let's start here in Rhino. And then I open the top view, then I sketch a circle at the origin point 0 and 10 as radius. Following that, I pick the polyline, then I sketch a line from the origin point. I select the line, then I start the command of alley polar. I specify the center 0 and then the items 3 in 360 degrees to design the main frame. Let me show you the photo again. As you can see here, we got the main frame of the 3D wall. Very well, get back to Rhino. I select these two lines, then I mirror these two lines at the other side. And the reason I did sketch these is the angle that I'm creating for these lines. At the top and at the bottom, they should be equal to each other. Just like a puzzle, that we're gonna place these objects next to each other. Here I select this line, I start the command of copy, then I wanna place the line at the midpoint. I enable snap midpoint by this way. And also the another line, I make a copy, then I place it at the midpoint by this way. Then at the next step, I select these lines, then by using trim, I delete the extra lines, so this is remained. And then by using line, I connect the intersections to each other. Let me take a look on the photo. And the next step, or the next part that I'm gonna sketch, is the connection of these corners. As you can see, get back to Rhino. I mean, in this way, I connect the intersections like this. Following that, I'm gonna sketch a perpendicular line. Let me enable the perpendicular snap by this way, like this. Then I mirror the line at the other side. I select them. Then by using array polar or polar array, the center, then the numbers, fill angle. Then as you can see, the main geometry is ready. However, some parts weren't necessary to be a sketch, but you need to be familiar with the whole process, step by step. I select these parts since I need it, but I don't need others, so I select these and then I click on isolate objects. I isolate these curves to work on them individually, so I can move the process forward. Again, I select all of the curves, then I show the points, the control points, or either we can use F10 actually, as I told you before, so we can display the control points of your curves. Let's take a look. Here I should move the point forward, upward, and this part I should move the point downward by this way, and I select the midpoint, then I hold down Control to move it upward vertically, like this way. Intersection snap. Let me check it out. After that, I can start Edge Surface command. I select these 3 curves, and I also enable Record History by this way. I create the surface, then I go for other surfaces. Here, as you know, we should choose 3 curves. Actually, I should explode this or trim one of them. So I trim it and then I split it actually. Again, I start the command of a surface. I select the 3 curves. I activate record history and then the surface. I show them. I set the display mode to shaded, a surface, record history, and then creating the surface. Well done. So I have created these 3 surfaces. I hide the other lines or the other curves, and then I select the created surfaces by using mirror tool. I mirror them at the other side by this way. And since I have enabled record history, right now I can select my control points and then modify the surface. As you can see, by moving the control points, we can apply the changes on the surface by this way, as you can see. Very well, and then I select the created surfaces to array them. I start array polar. I specify the center, then the number by this way. Well done. So in this order we can create one of the panels. I select the curves. After that I hide them like this. Then from the top view I want to array the panels by using array. I select them, then in property, then I want to hide the isocurves, so I uncheck show surface isocurves, select and then array. Then I want to specify the number in x, y and z direction. For example 6 and then 6 and 6 in z as well, or 1. Then we will have some challenges and difficulties in the array process, as you can see. Since as you can see some parts are skipped, or if I shrink the preview of the array, some parts will be overlapping. So what should I do if I want to array this panel? Again, I select the created surfaces. Then by using copy tool, I create a copy by this way. Then I select these two panels. Then by using array, for example 8 in or 6 in x, and then 10 in y, and then 1 in z direction. After that I can array the panels. Then let us check out the rendered preview. As you can see, they are arrayed perfectly. Then if I right click, I can finish the changes. I select all of the panels. I start the command of remap. Then in front view I click to remap the panels in the front view. Here as you can see in the rendered preview we got such a pattern by this way. And then here from display I can show the surface edges. I check surface edges and then they will be displayed as you can see. Again I turn off surface edges. I select all of the objects by Ctrl A, then I move them to the other side, Ctrl H to hide them. Then in shaded graphic style or display mode, I want to check the next surface that I want to create. Let me see, here it is. For example, I want to work on this like a flower. As you can see, we just need to create half of one of these triangles and then we can array them. So get back to Rhino, here in top view. Then I select polygon command. I click on number of the sides. I specify 6 and then I specify the center of the polygon 0. Well done. I hold down shift and then I want to adjust the dimension of the polygon like this. Then I pick the polygon, I sketch it from the center point to the intersection. Then again I pick the line to connect the center to the midpoint by this way. Then I need to sketch a curved line as you can see on the scene, and then to create one of these parts then we can array it. I pick curve interpolate points. I start the command and then by this way, by specifying 3 points, I sketch the curve like this. Then in the perspective view, I select the line or the curve actually. Then I remove these 2 control points. I select the mid control point. Then I move it upward, as you can see in the screen, on the screen. Then I select the curve polygon, I explode it, and then by using a split command, by using this line to convert it to 2 single lines, I select these lines in curve, this 3 curve, open curve. I start the command of a surface, and then I create the surface by this way. Again, I start the command of a surface by pressing down a space bar. I select these lines and then create the surface by this way. I select these two surfaces, and then by using join command, I convert them to a poly surface, and then I hide the ISO curves, since I don't want them to be displayed in the perspective view. I select the polysurf, then I start the command of mirror. As you can see in the photo, we have created one of these triangles in the polygon. Again, I select it. By using array polar, I specify the center, then the number and the fill angle. 6 as number, as you can see. Well done. I array the surfaces. Then I start the command of selecting curve. I select the curves, then I press down Ctrl H to hide them by this way. Then I select the shown surfaces, and then I make a copy. Well done. Then I select these two poly surfaces, array, the number in X direction, for example 6, 4 and 1. Then I array the poly surfaces. Here is the result, like this. Check this out. I set the display mode to rendered viewport or preview, so we can watch them at the rendered viewport. So we managed to create such a geometry or surface actually. Again, in the display panel, I click on show edges to display the edges of the surfaces. Well done. Then finally I select them, remap. After that, in the front view, I click, so we can have the panel in the front view. Vertically, I move it, Ctrl H to hide it, then I wanna go for the next panel. Right now, I'm gonna create one more panel and then wrap up the session. For example, this. As I told you before, at the first step, you should analyze the main curves. Look at carefully. Okay, get back to Rhino. In the top view, I pick the polygon. I specify the num sides 3 to create a triangle like this. That the angles are equal to each other. I adjust the dimensions. Well done. I start interpolate curve command. Then from the intersection to the other intersection, around. Following that, I'm gonna move the selected line in relation to the center of the triangle. Here I can use gumball. I click on gumball, I right click, I click on align to object, and when the gumball was aligned to the object, watch this, I click on this and I want to import the value 1, so I don't need the triangle. Select and then Ctrl H to hide. Again, in gumball, I align it to C plane or current plane. Following that, I start array polar. I specify the center 3 by this way. Then I enable record history, enter. I select these control points and then gumball right click, align to object. So by this way, I modify the curves. I move the control points to inside the curves, and as you can see, we can modify these 3 curves together. And this is all because of the record history that we have used in the array polar. So I have created the lines or the curves. Then in the top view, I select the control points, and then in the front view, I modify the height of these points. I move them upwards. So by this way, we can create the curves. Following that, I pick curve interpolate points, and then I connect the endpoints. Then by using array polar in relation to the origin point 3, check this out. But don't forget to enable record history, because I can modify the control point of these curves if it was needed later, and I can make any changes I want, and the changes will be applied on all of the 3 lines which were arrayed. I curve it, then I select the curves, then by using patch, then I create a surface. Check out the preview. Here, as you can see, the surface is not matched with the curves that much. It isn't smooth enough, so I wanna increase the value of U spans and V spans. I set 20 for both. Let's check out the preview. Well done. Right now the surface is more accurate and more matched with the curves. Even I can set both of them to 25, so the surface will be created more accurately. I click on OK to save the changes. I select the created surface by patch. Then by using isolate objects, I want to keep only the surface, but I hide the curves. So by using extrude of the gumball, as you can see, like this way. Then in the continuation, for arraying the surface, I can't use the rectangular array, as I showed you in the previous example. We will have some problems. Check this out. They are not properly positioned next to each other. So here in wireframe display mode, I enable project, and then I start copy. Then I specify the point to copy from. In the perspective view, let me specify the point from the midpoint, and then by using grid snaps, I position it at the center or the origin point, and then I press down tab to restrict the direction. Then in perspective view, to adjust the position of the surface where they got no intersection with each other. For instance, here is OK. Then at the rendered viewport, by this way, then by using array, I wanna array these 2 poly surfaces. I select the 2 objects, array polar, rectangular array, 6, 4 and 1. Then I enable the grid snap of midpoint. Then I specify the position to array. Check this out. Then in the perspective view, let's check it out. And then by pressing down enter, I finish the changes, and as you can see, the pattern is created. Again, I can select them and then remap. Then in the front view, I click by this way. Right now we have them vertically in the front view. Control Shift H to show the other panels, and then I select these patterns to display them along each other like this. Then I can scale to maximize the size of these by this way. I move it upward, and either I can minimize the size of others. So firstly, by analyzing the main curves, then by sketching the curves using array command, rectangular and polar both, and also by using a surface and patch, we managed to create such patterns as I instructed step by step. And you yourself, till now, you should be skilled at creating different kind of patterns. You can search for them and then practice on them. And if you got any questions, you can ask me. See you in the next session. And I hope you have enjoyed this session.